Let's call this meeting to order. Council meeting for July 20th, 2023. Excused from the meeting will be Holly Johnson. Do we have a motion to that effect, please? Adina, please. All in favor of the motion to exempt Holly? That's carried. Thank you. Adoption of the minutes of the July 6th meeting. Are there any comments, corrections, or alternatively a motion to approve the minutes of the July 6th meeting? Lynette, motion. Thank you. All in favor of approving the July 6th meeting? That's minutes. That's carried. Call for post-agenda items. Are there any post-agenda items? Seeing none, I'll just note that we do have Sherry Poole joining us at 10:45 from SEWA. At 11 o'clock, we've got the new Lake Newell Resort Community Association coming in for a hearing, and then a public hearing at 11:30. Other than that, we've got an agenda printed for us. And the other thing I will say that we do have a meeting this afternoon at, or we're attending at CDC South at 1:30. So we will try to move through this agenda to keep to that time frame if we can. So a motion to adopt the agenda as presented would be in favor. Amanda, all in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Question period or notices of motion. Are there any? No questions online, Catherine?
No, there's not.
Seeing none, let's move to item number 8.2, bylaw number 2046-23, traffic bylaw first reading. John and Devin, who's taking the lead on this? Welcome, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So we're here today just to present the updated traffic bylaw. We're just seeking first reading of new bylaw. Consolidates 8 total bylaws, which also includes the traffic bylaw. Just makes things a little more streamlined for us. Makes it easier for reference for both us and the public. So anything that has to do with the highway is within the bylaw, so weights and whatnot. Also highway, just want to mention that the definition is used throughout the bylaw, just in line with the Traffic Safety Act. Just use the same definition, make it easier for us, court and everything. And yeah, we just recommend to council to proceed with first reading, and if there's any questions.
Okay, are there any questions? This is first reading. Go ahead, Ellen.
Yeah, under definitions of a bicycle, does that include e-bikes as well? Because it says propelled by muscular power. So it can be propelled by muscular power, but I guess it can drive on its own too, right? So does that go under bicycle as a definition?
I would leave it in there. The Traffic Safety Act hasn't even updated their definition to include it because it can be used by muscular power. They just leave it as bicycle, yeah.
Okay, any other, go ahead, Dan.
I picked up a couple things. In 5C, it says you're allowed parking next to a curb in a T intersection. I was wondering if that was clear enough.
I guess to me it'd be clear enough. A lot of this, so when we do these bylaws, we research a lot of other community bylaws and what's been put forward. So usually when we're looking at these bylaws, we look at locations that have been tested in the courts and whatnot. So that would have been the same portion with this one. This is a pretty standardized parking section that's throughout most bylaws in Southern Alberta anyways.
The next one would be 25.9. Talked about the debt owing after a cleanup. Everywhere else it was mentioned that it would be added to the tax roll, but in that one it just said it would be a chargeback. I was curious as to what the why some are added to a tax roll and some are just like a chargeable item.
I think that'd be a good discussion for us to have after maybe. So a lot of these I haven't changed too much. I just consolidated them without looking into that, but I think that's a good recommendation for us to take a look at and moving forward.
Two other ones are, I think, pretty minor. 27D, it refers to section 22, not section 27. 27E refers to section 28, not section 27. And the other one that I thought maybe it'd be worth a discussion would be for wheeled conveyances and speed limits on pathways. Some of those scooters can do about 30 kilometers an hour, and I'm sure they're going to end up being on those pathways. But I mean, is this something where we want to keep it at 20? And if there's no one around and they're doing 30, who's going to know? Or do we want to have some kind of allowance for that kind of a thing? The same as if someone's riding their bike on a pathway and there's no one around. A bicycle can do more than 30, but just wondered if we wanted to make any kind of provision for that kind of thing.
I think again, I mean, it all comes down to discretion. If there's no one around, I can really leave it at that, right? But yeah, I think again, that one was researched through other communities what their speed limits usually set at, and it's 20 kilometers an hour. Just if there are other users on the pathway, obviously they're going to be potential for more injuries if a collision were to happen on a bicycle versus pedestrian, right? So I think that's kind of why that was set in place for most communities, and I think it'd be important for us to kind of stay with the same idea.
That's all the notes I had.
Okay, thanks. Dan, any other questions or motion? Go ahead, Kelly.
I'm prepared to make a motion to approve first reading.
Okay, thank you. All in favor of the motion, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Let's move on to item number 10, Agriculture Services Business, Mr. Todd Green. Welcome.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for having me. All I got out of that last conversation was I can use a scooter on the pathway, and that's beautiful. Slowly, yes. It's going to take me a lot less time to get to Brooks from Kinbrook on a scooter than it is walking, so pretty excited. Now I gotta start saving for a scooter. Anyways, so the first one up, I think, is the Ag Fieldman report. That's always a great time. So I think just look some updates on the programming a little bit. Roadside spraying is complete. Howard and Kim had a pretty good spray year, actually. Even though it's dry out, they were able to complete in a pretty good amount of time. And we actually we had a pretty good conversation about the time they actually spent spraying and how many days that equals, like, you know, how many 8-hour days that equals. So if they were just to spray for 8 hours every day, I think it was 13 days. The problem is you usually get wind and it gets too hot and all the rest of that kind of stuff. But they were still able to do it in pretty good time. So that was exciting. Roadside mowers are absolutely flying through their programming. They started a little bit early, but they're done the north side of the #1 highway probably in record time. And so they've already started on the south, and we don't expect a lot of regrowth. So we'll see how that plays out. We do have a water truck following right now. So we have 2 roadside mowers working in pretty close proximity, and then we have a water truck that's kind of available to them, kind of monitoring as the day progresses. So in a year like this, I guess it is good that we had the extra couple people, because we just lost somebody off the crew to go and watch for that. So typically, and just so you guys know, first pass, we don't typically have a problem with the dry. Obviously, this year's a little exaggerated, but when we spray the roadside with our chemical, the industrial rates are a little higher. So it actually has some impact on the grass. It browns it off a little bit. So this year being dry and the impact of the chemical, it just made it a twofold impact there. So anyways, we're just trying to mitigate any risks that we can. We control programming. Like I said, I think we've talked about this one over and over and over, but it's been a little bit challenging. Everything's been ahead of us most of the year, but pretty happy that we're able to catch up on things. Low water flow on the Bow River. When I was talking to Donovan last week, he said they were working further not into the river, into the water, but further towards the water than we have in recent years. And they actually seen quite a few weeds growing kind of on the bank that goes down towards the river. So they were able to do some really great work on areas that we haven't usually been able to get to. And early, we're done. And we're usually starting on the 17th. So yeah, I don't know what we're going to do in August. We're really going to have to, if you guys have some great projects, everything's going to be done. But we've seen kind of an insurgence of some leafy spurge, which is horrible. I hate leafy spurge. Black henbane has been popping up in very random locations. Black henbane is not one we've really had a lot of. We've had some very spotty patches of it for 20 years, but mostly up in Arno's country because it comes from Wheatland County, has their area in Wheatland County, not from Wheatland County. They're not gifting us anything, don't worry. But when contractors work in one area and then bring dirt to the other, that's where it comes from. And Wheatland County has black henbane, but we haven't typically. So it's been up in the kind of gem country. And now just found some south of Tilly. There's some on the One Tree Road. So black henbane's a really cool plant. If you've never seen black henbane before, I should send you guys some information on it. It's really cool. It stinks like wet dog, like really horrid. And the seed pods are beautiful little gray, the flowers are beautiful little gray, and then they expel their seed. It's kind of cool. They pop. Anyways, I'll send you some information. I know weeds are weird and I'm weirder. So beautification took place. So we judged on Tuesday. Thank you very much, Adina and Jolene, for helping with the judging. Never an easy job, but our tour is next week on the 26th. We have 36 people signed up so far. We got a 44 passenger bus. So we are excited to do that. We're going to end the tour here in the county building downstairs, have lunch, but yeah, we're going to our 3 yards that morning. They're all very close and very close to Brooks. So this is going to be the easiest year for touring ever. Rental equipment. You can see the no-till drills had an amazing year this year. The only problem with that is it speaks to how much alfalfa replant had to be done. So we had a whole bunch of guys that had winter kill, and they had to reseed a lot. But the livestock equipment has been going out. Trap rentals are kind of, pretty stagnant. But I think we've just sold too many magpie traps and skunk traps in the last 10 years. We just don't have as many renters out there, which is great. We love to talk to people, but if they got their own, that's cool. The other thing I noticed, did anybody notice there's way more badgers this year? I don't remember ever really see them running down the road, running across the field like consistently. This year, I think this week I've seen 5, and that's, I don't know, maybe I'm just out and about different areas. Squirreling here on you, my apologies. Emerson has been having an amazing year. Long weekends, obviously busy. And we've had some really good long-term rentals, some monthly rentals, which is awesome for us. Faye and Richard get to know people on a little bit longer scale, and you can kind of have some great conversations and keep people happy. There's been some construction projects that you guys might have seen up in the northern and part of the county that I guess they've been working in. Obviously, hamlets are slowing down, and we are doing surveys. So bacterial ring rot, I believe, is next week. We have one whole potato field to do. We get that list from the PGA, the potato growers. They send us a list of the field that we have to do. It's usually 6 fields. The last couple of years, it's only been 1 field. We are doing 7 fields for Fusarium graminearum for Dr. Mike Harding at CBC. They finished the visual club route survey, so our VMTs go to the field entrance, just as we have in policy. I know you guys know the policy. But they go to the field entrance and they glass the area and they try to see any anomalies in the field. And if there's an anomaly in the field, we make note of that so we can go back to that field once we get permission to go in and take a look. So this year I haven't looked, they just finished yesterday, so I haven't looked at any of the anomalies or how many they may have had. And then grasshoppers. So whoever is counting grasshoppers this year is certainly going to have to learn to count fast and high because they are everywhere. Joe sent a picture. He was driving south of town by the aqueduct and he sent a picture. He said he did the grasshopper survey with the front of the truck. It was just covered. It's gross. It's not funny. I apologize for anybody dealing with grasshoppers. Yes, that's kind of what we've been up to, plus some very random information about all things.
Thank you. Todd, are there any questions? Or a motion of acceptance of our agricultural fieldman's report? Lynette, please. Right? All in favor of accepting the report? That's carried. Thanks, Todd.
All right, thank you. And the only other thing I had to discuss with you guys today was the resolutions report card.
That's right.
Yes. And I know you can see it, and I know Dan gave me trouble for bringing 300 pages of the county properties report, 342. So I only brought 48 in the resolutions package this time. I was actually a little bit disappointed. I've had this resolutions report card from Linda and the ASB Provincial Committee for like a month or better, and I didn't bring it to you because everything was incomplete. And I thought for sure we'd get an update and I'd bring some great information, but there's nothing. So I don't know that there's a lot to discuss unless anybody noted something. I personally read through and I agree with the recommendations for the resolution grading, which would be the accept in principle, incomplete, there's 4 of them. Sorry, accept the response, accept in principle, incomplete, and unsatisfactory. So you can see from the ASB PC, we have out of the, I guess there would be 14. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 that haven't even received a proper response. So that's pretty bleak in my opinion, and I don't know what that speaks to, whether it was an election year and we weren't able to get to the right people to get a response, and now we're getting to the new people now, the different ministries, and as they change, maybe they were just not able to get responses. But I think option 2 would be a really
Is the recommended option. That's right. Are there any questions, or is someone prepared to make a motion? Dan, please.
Just one quick question. I'm pretty sure it's self-explanatory, but the one where it says defeated, that means it was defeated in the vote at our Ag Services Conference, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
Lynette, please.
I've got a couple of questions. When it came to the Alberta Veterinary Medicine Association, some of the responses there, one of them from that Phil Buote, or I'm not sure how to say the name, it said, looking forward to meeting you in July of 2023. Was there actually a meeting, and do we know anything that went on there?
I don't know that, but that would be probably a meeting with the ASBPC, right? Yeah, and it's still July. I'm going to guess it's, if he said looking forward to it, I'm going to guess they kept that meeting, but hopefully, so yeah, those are the kinds of things maybe we'll learn more about.
And then question number 2, with the gopher stuff, they basically just went to whatever, but there are some other products. Have we tried any of those other products in the county?
Yes, so we worked with Co-op to bring in the ZP rodent bait. I don't think that's the exact right name, but that's the aluminum or zinc phosphide oat bait. So they brought in a pallet of it. I think for all the people that I told to go over there because Co-op was bringing it in, they shouldn't have had any left. So I think there was some good news out of that. There was an option, but the initial reports I've heard, it's not quite as good as the old strychnine, but people have said that about the most recent strychnine. It wasn't as potent as the original. So that's that one. It's kind of, it's a good option, but it's not quite perfect. Aluminum phosphide, which is the fumigant product that producers need a farm pesticide certificate to get. We've had a few guys go through that this spring, and the one fella told me in his canola field, he went out, he applied it, they closed the holes, they did everything according to the label. Went out the next morning and the holes hadn't been reopened. So he was encouraged that that worked. But it's a little bit later, and I think if Holly was here, she would be able to tell us a bit more too, because they've used it. It just seems like you have to use that one a little bit later in the season, almost as like a, oh, hey, I have a problem. I can now use, or I should get aluminum phosphide. So that's the tricky part, because you need your farm pesticide certificate. So if Lynette goes out and says, oh crap, I have a gopher problem, then she has to quick do some studying, quick come in, write a test, pass said test, and then get her product.
Do we administer the tests here?
We do. We do. It's a provincial program, the farm pesticide certificate, but it's all completely online. So there's 9 tutorials that you go through. And then Will has the right, so it's called Train the Trainer on his certified pesticide applicator certificate, and he's able to proctor the exams.
Do we have the product here then too as well? Or how does that work?
Lynette, we are a one-stop shop when it comes to this stuff. Yeah. So many, many years we've had phostoxin for both grain bug fumigation and gophers. When Co-op took over the, I think it was Phillips fertilizer in Lomond, Phillips was the only other people that sold it in the area. So Co-op can also bring it in. We do sell it at cost, where they sell it because they're a business. So we're cheaper, but we still don't sell that much of it. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to, the recommended option is option number 2 there to approve as presented. Someone have a correction for us? Lynette?
I'll make that motion.
To approve option number 2 as per Todd's report. All in favor, please indicate. That is carried. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Todd. Let's move on to administrative business, item number 11.1, our Director of Corporate Services. Lane, please. Well, you're getting better with those crutches. Morning.
Hopefully I'll be done with them next week.
Yeah.
It's just a quarterly report for council. Try to highlight some of the main activities that have taken place during the last 3 months in the areas of responsibility that report under the corporate services function. So emergency services, a couple things just to be aware of. Stuart has noted that the tender was approved for the completion of the needs assessment. That has actually started. We did have a meeting last night with all of the fire chiefs here in council chambers, and the consultant that's looking after that responsibility met with the fire chiefs last night to launch that process. It is dry, but we have had the occasional rain that has allowed us to avoid going to a full ban, and the actual number of incidents that they're having to respond to is still manageable. Not too much else really to highlight for emergency services. Finance, the June 15th deadline for taking advantage of the discount on property taxes has come and gone. We find that the total number of individuals that are attending the office to make payments is continuing to drop as people take advantage of online payment options. Usually that rush of activity always generated a lot of other activity from people that were saving up and just coming in to meet with different staff members on other areas that they had questions on. So that impact has reduced for all of the other departments as well when it comes to the walk-in traffic that's associated with the June 15th deadline. Corporate safety, things are moving along there. One thing to be aware of is that we have selected the auditor that's going to be taking care of our external audit that is scheduled for September, October, and there's always a chance that a member or two of council will be the lucky individual to participate in that audit process. So just be aware that it's going to be taking place this fall, and do whatever you need to do to be fully prepared for that if your number is called. Not too much else really to highlight. If there's any questions that council has on any of the information that's in the report, certainly be prepared to respond to questions that you might have.
Thank you, Lane. Are there questions? Anybody have any questions?
Those are the best ones to answer. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Lane. Appreciate that. Let's move on to item number 11.2, our meeting with our MLA, the Honorable Premier Danielle Smith, on July 26th, 2023. Matt, please.
Yeah, so I'll give credit to Ariana for putting the RFD together for us here. We had talked about this briefly with council at last meeting. That's what you see in the bullet point list there. We have the premier for an hour. Early this morning, I sent out to council under these headings some potential discussion points to expand on each of these items. So we're really just looking for confirmation from council today for the list of items on the agenda that will send over to the premier's office so she's somewhat prepared. I don't think we're going to send the one pager that I sent out to council today. We can continue to work on that between now and the 26th if there's some edits or additional items you want to roll in there, but we are looking for the list of things we'll send over to the premier's office so she is prepared for us.
Okay, thanks. Kelly, please.
The only thing that's strikingly missing for me is the LGFF funding model. Like, we need to light a fire.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Anything else? Oh, sorry. Dan and then Neil.
Looks like we got quite a bit of stuff on here, but I know we had talked before about new home warranty and the detriment it has had on the housing starts in our area. So wonder if we maybe start a conversation with her about what can be done or what's the plans for that going forward, because it was intended for the big cities. It wasn't intended for us, and then the consequences have not been good for us. So I wonder if we can add that to the list.
Okay, thank you. Neil.
Yeah, the list, I think, might be a little bit too long because we have an hour and we've got 9, 10 topics. That's 5 minutes each. You could spend, I mean, she's going to be overwhelmed. Anybody would be sitting down and hearing all these requests at once. So maybe we should narrow it down to, this is just a suggestion, but 2 or 3 or 5. That's my comment here. They're all great, but I mean that's quite a pile. She's not going to be able to act on every one of them anyways.
Some of these are mostly for information as well, I think, too, right? Like Matt, go ahead. But thanks for that, Neil. I agree with you.
Yeah, what I would recommend, so the one pager will leave with the premier as she leaves us. I think the top priority should be the first ones on that one pager, and we just start working our way down the list with her.
One of the other things that I think we should speak to, but we can do that in an introduction or whatever too, is the importance of water irrigation, address the drought situation and our tack towards that, or the position we've taken towards that, and the importance of irrigation along with our strong support for the Airmore Dam discussion. That doesn't need to take a lot of time, but I think it can be included in our preamble at the opening. It's some information at the beginning of the meeting. Go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, the other one that we've all talked about, and other councillors on other boards have done the same. It always comes up as her accessibility on a regular basis. I don't know how you word that, but what I mean is she's kind of distant.
I think we can discuss that more in the context of let's make a plan for how we want to regularly get together.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty positive approach to that.
That's a nice way of
Recognizing
saying it.
that the Premier has an extremely busy schedule, and we appreciate the fact that she's in our constituency and our representative, and we look forward to meeting on a regular basis, whatever that should look like. And I think that's a reasonable discussion for us to have, so we understand what the joint expectation will be. So I think that's good. Anything else? Matt, go ahead.
Just in terms of priority ordering, is council happy with the order of the list as it shows up on the request for decision? So top 3 would be Crop Diversification Center South, the conversation about SEWA, and Continuing Care Capital Program, top 3. Do you want to get 4 and 5 in there or rearrange any of those?
Kelly, go ahead.
I'm fine with LGFF just being on the page, so she'll know because it's nothing new.
I think we do want to have a conversation around health care services in the area for sure. I think that's a priority across the region. So I think that's something that we should be on there for sure. Yeah. Okay. We'll work to get that ready for the 26th and commiserate on that. Good. Thank you. Right, it being after 10:45, we have Sherry Poole joining us from SEWA. Let's go back to agenda item 9.1. Right, thank you. Funding request for Southern Alberta Energy for Waste Association. Sherry, are you online with us this morning? Catherine, are we hooked up? Oh,
Yeah, it looks like she's online. She's just muted. Let's see.
Sherry Poole, can you hear us this morning? Good morning, Sherry. Can you hear us? How can we get hooked up here? Matt, go ahead.
Maybe while Sherry's looking for her unmute button or figuring out the gremlins in internet land, I'll introduce this item to council. So you'll recall at a recent meeting, SEWA attended and was seeking funding to execute on a detailed memorandum of understanding with Hitachi Zosen Innova. At that meeting, council approved funding of $100,000. Councillors had asked questions about if the city of Brooks or other partners were going to come to the table and put in some funding. They were able to secure $50,000 from the city of Brooks, but they're short now $50,000 to get this work done. The detailed memorandum of understanding needs to be in place to get this project to a place where it can then be shopped around to federal, provincial governments and look at public-private partnership. So the request today from SEWA is that council considers approving an additional funding envelope of up to $50,000 to get this detailed MOU complete.
Thank you, Matt. Can you hear us now, Sherry?
I can.
Welcome, welcome. Did you hear Matt's opening comments and presentation?
Yes, I did.
Good, thank you. Do you have anything to add for council's benefit? And then we'll probably have some questions maybe.
Well, I appreciate, it's a disappointment. It is for SEWA as well. We tried, and especially when they gave us indication that was positive that they would do their best to push it through, and they came back and said that it didn't meet any of their guidelines, and their board did not approve it as a result. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. And the strongest reason that was indicated why it was unsuccessful is because an MOU does not establish job creation per se. I mean, the end results they understand will, but they're tied to showing that their return on investment is job creation.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions with regard to this? Go ahead, Kelly, please.
Good morning, Sherry. I have a question around the MOU. Have you shopped around? Is 200,000 the going rate for an MOU?
Well, again, for an MOU of this magnitude, because this is a very 45 plus page, well scripted, big project based on the value of the money. The legal has told us that that's the greatest expense, and as far as the engineers, we are working with HDR. We have through this project development to date, and to go out to tender to another engineering firm, it likely would not be a good idea to see if we could get that amount. But honestly, the heavy portion of this budget is legal. 53,000 of it is legal.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Kelly. Yeah.
Then I have a follow-up question, and that's around our contact with our member municipalities. Are you still in touch with them, Sherry? Are we still 56 strong? What are we looking at for membership here?
Well, the only impact that we've had in the last 4 years is Drumheller and District Waste, Solid Waste Management did withdraw their membership last year. And with that, we lost, a significant footprint, like their population, their waste population is, close to 20,000. So, but other than that, all the members are on board, and, so it was an unfortunate event that they couldn't wait for us to get through the expression of interest process. But I understand, we've spoken, Member Clausen, who, represents Wheatland County. He has a direct line of information with them, and what he's reported back to SEWA is that, they're kind of working on things in their own direction, and they're not sure at this point, if they would be interested in revisiting this, but it is an open discussion. SEWA's also approached the city of Lethbridge and Medicine Hat, and there was quite a bit of interest there, but there's always potential for the membership to grow, and I don't anticipate, based on the feedback from our representative directors, that all the current members are very engaged and excited to see this project moving forward. So the bottom line is you can never say 100% that, you know, the members will be retained, but say was, you know, trying to do as much engagement as possible, and because that, you know, they're working with a limited budget, and that's quite expensive too. But we always try to stay engaged, get feedback from members, and as based on today's date, I would say that, you know, the current members are very interested in seeing this through.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. This isn't specific to the MOU, but it's just a question with regard to similar technology or applications being used in other areas. Where is there an installation like this somewhere else in Alberta, or is this kind of this is leading edge technology and application, correct?
Well, this will be certainly the first of its kind and scale. Everyone's familiar with the Varme project that's working, you know, with Innisfail on theirs, but that capacity is, you know, 100,000, and it's just at the preliminary stages. So they've got a lot of work to do yet. But other than that, you know, the model that we are working with is the same as what they've got in Eastern Canada, Durham, York, Covanta. So, you know, it's being done in Canada, but definitely not in Alberta.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. That's good information. Are there any other questions? Matt, do you have, you've got some perspective for us with regard to the cost and where this, how we would, you know, some information to help us consider the recommendation this morning?
Yeah, so the options that administration's put in front of council is that you consider approving the additional funding of up to $50,000 that would be sourced out of our stabilization funds. So there are dollars there. The other option is that you don't approve any additional funding. The risk right now, SEWA's in the trenches. This work is proceeding. Getting the dollars today would certainly help them get this done sooner than having to go to all of the members and ask them for, I don't know, $2,000, whatever it is, to get it done. I think SEWA coming to the county and the city of Brooks as the region for the preferred site of the facility makes a little bit of sense. Is it a slam dunk guaranteed? No, it's not. But it's a good prospect for bringing, I think, up to 50 additional long-term jobs to the region. And I think the estimate for construction jobs is 500. And Sherry can correct my numbers, but I think the investment is around 500 million to get this thing built. Probably going to multiply that by 1.3 like we're doing with everything else these days. So it could be, you know, for a region that's known for energy production, a good development for the region. And it doesn't hurt that it's got some of that green stuff attached to it, right? Reducing methane emissions and giving a nod to the climate conversation.
Right, this is a big undertaking, but I think it's one that's leading edge. Any other questions or comments? Lynette, please.
I guess my biggest question is the reason that you're not going to the other members, interested parties in this is just as a time frame thing? My thought would be that, well, if the county's going to pony up the 50,000, maybe we still ask for that money to be sent in. We give it right now, but all of the other members should be putting in their $2,000 or whatever. That's my thought on this.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Neil, you serve on the SEWA board as a representative.
Like when we first put in the 100, we went in knowing that this was coming. Otherwise, I think the other members should be putting some in, but we get the big benefit out of this. I don't mind supporting the 50, but we have to get some action back out of this and keep this thing going, or or it's over. Sorry, Sherry. That's just the way it is.
Okay, thank you, Neil. Dan, please.
You said there's money in the stabilization fund. How much?
Over $4 million. I don't have an exact number for you. Yeah.
Thanks, Matt Kelly.
I'm prepared to make a motion for option 1 as written.
Okay, thank you. And that option or that the recommended response is the council approves additional funding of up to $150,000 from the stabilization fund for the Southern Alberta Energy from Waste Association to complete a detailed memorandum of understanding with Hitachi Zosen Inova. Okay, there we have a motion on the table. Any further questions? All in favor of the motion, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Sherry. Thank you for your presentation and presence this morning. We all the best. We hope things move forward as quickly and expeditiously as possible. Thank you.
Thank you all for your support, and I'll certainly relay that back to SEWA.
Thank you. Okay. Council, we have an appointment with the Lake Newell Resort Community Association at 11 o'clock. I'm going to suggest that we delay by about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, whatever it takes. We're going to take a quick break and we'll come back better than ever. So, okay, let's call the meeting back to order. And I will welcome members and representatives of the Lake Newell Community Association. Welcome to our meeting this morning. And I'm going to suggest that we start with introductions so we for a minute or two at least know who each other are. And so Neil, go ahead, please start.
Good to see you guys here. Neil Johnson, Division 10.
Good morning, Amanda Philpott, Division 8, Duchess.
Good morning, Ellen Unra, and I represent the area around the village of Rosemary.
Good morning, everyone. Greg Screever, Division 5, Lake Newell Resort and Castles.
Good morning. Welcome. I'm Kelly Chrisman. I'm from the west side of the county.
Good morning again. I'm Arno Dirksen from the GEM area, the north end of the county.
Morning, Matt Fensky, County Administrator.
Good morning, Adina Scandra, Division 2, Chilean area.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Dan Short from Division 1, Rolling Hills area.
Hi, I'm Lynette Kopp. I'm in Ellison, Patricia area.
Good morning, Ariana Nielsen, Executive Assistant.
Lane Johnson, Director of Corporate Services.
Sandra Stanway, Brooks Bulletin.
Good morning. My name is Julian Anacrico. I'm the chairman of the Pathway Committee.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Tom Mossing. I'm the treasurer and I'm the acting chairman of the Community Association.
Good morning, I'm Jessica Surgener, and I believe my title is something with information, but I'm a member of the Lake Newell Resort Pathway Committee.
Okay, thank you. Does someone have a mobile microphone, please?
All right.
Christine Ring, Lake Newell Resort Community Association and resident of Block 4.
Jared Hofer, resident at Lake Newell Resort.
Holly Hafso, Homeowners Association and Lake Newell Resort resident.
Lindsay Hafso, resident.
Bill Horton, resident.
Sabina Endersby, Lake Newell Resort resident.
Bill Endersby, Hill resident.
Bill Herman, chairman of Block 1 Condo Association.
Bonnie Anacrico, resident of Lake Newell.
Mark Harbeck, Director of Municipal Services.
Thank you and welcome all. With that, we'll turn the, I think you've got a presentation to make to you, Julian. Go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to thank County Council for giving us the opportunity to speak to you guys today. Really appreciate it. I'll turn it over to Tom.
There, is that better? Okay, sorry.
I'd like to spend a couple minutes just talking about the history of, in particular, the PATH committee. So the PATH has been talked about for quite some time. We had a plan a few years ago for a pathway that did not proceed. We didn't get 100% support for it. So when we heard the county announcement that it was going to extend the pathway to the Kimbrook Island, we all got pretty excited and decided that we should probably be part of that thing. So what happened is we decided the best thing to do would be to create a PATH committee, which we did right away. Now, you've all probably had experiences with getting volunteers to sit on committees. It doesn't always work that simple. In this case, it worked like a charm. We asked Julian here to chair this committee, and within a few days we had I'll do it. We were full. So showed us a fantastic, I guess a lot of support for this project. So the project, the committee got busy right away, and they did various things. They right away they spent a lot of time in choosing the route, the most logical route to get down to the resort. They also created an open house where we shared the route with all residents and invited residents to come and have their input. And then we did an online survey or a survey of all residents to gauge our support for this project. And we also went door to door. So they've been busy. The conclusion that we came up with was that there's lots of enthusiasm and lots of support for this project. So back to you, Jim.
My background is in athletics and coaching. And one thing I learned a long time ago as a coach, if you want to have a winning team, you've got to surround yourself with great players. And like Tom said, I took this role on enthusiastically, and the first thing I did is I started recruiting people that I knew would be awesome. And I think that we have a championship team here. Their names are up on the screen. Those are the people that are on our pathway committee. And I'd also like to recognize that there are other members, some that are here in the gallery today, that were very instrumental in what we've done so far. So, what are we proposing? We are proposing a pathway that would join the Kimbrook Connection Partnership Pathway and extend to Lake Newell Resort. Okay? Reasons why we would like to do this. First of all, and by far the most important one, is safety. The current road out to Lake Newell Resort is very, very narrow. It has no shoulders. It is not conducive to the coexistence of vehicles, cyclists, pedestrians. There have been accidents out there. There have been near accidents out there. There have been accidents involving 2 or more vehicles. And about 3 or 4 weeks ago, there was an accident where a driver of a pickup rear-ended a mom who was on a bicycle with her trailer and 2 infants in it, and demolished the trailer. And honestly, by the grace of God, nobody was injured. It could have been a lot worse. It could have resulted in a fatality. Every resident that I've spoken to out there, they bring up safety all the time. I know there are people that don't allow their children on that road. But it is used. It is used quite a bit. There are obviously people commuting from the lake to town for work, whatever. There are people coming in from the city of Brooks to use the lake, hauling boats. There are cyclists using it. Some are from the resort, some are from the city of Brooks, some are tourists. There are pedestrians using it. There are a lot of residents out there that walk just for fitness. They are either by themselves or with company. There are many people that walk their dogs out there. And like I said, there are moms pushing baby carriages out there or walking on the very narrow shoulder with infants going to one of the parks out there. So our emphasis is on safety. We believe that if we can get a pathway out there, that we will get a lot of people using the pathway, particularly pedestrians and cyclists. The other reasons are increased community wellness. It goes without saying that if people are on the pathway, they're moving, they're getting fitness, they're moving their joints. It's better for their heart and lungs. It's better for their bones and muscles. It's better for controlling weight. All kinds of reasons like that. We all know what the benefits of fitness are. But another very important benefit is the personal well-being in terms of mental fitness. We all know what COVID did to our society and with a lot of depression, et cetera. Everybody knows that one of the greatest pills you can have for being down is exercise. So we want to get people out there moving. Better for the environment because obviously there won't be any air pollution when you're walking or cycling, and it'll be minimal impact on the environment out there. Economic development. We firmly believe that a pathway out there is, number one, it's going to increase the property value of our homes out there. Secondly, we believe that people that were thinking of building out there, this might be the tipping point where they decide, yes, there's a pathway out there, we want to move out there, we want to build out there. And of course, the result is going to be increased tax dollars for the County of Newell. And we also believe that tourism is going to increase as just another recreational potential. People come out from all over Alberta to use our lake. If there's a pathway out there, they'll bring their bikes out there, they'll bike around. The more tourists we get to the area, obviously benefits our restaurants, our hotels, our local business, etc. So we think it's a win-win all the way around. Who would benefit? Everybody, the residents of Lake Newell Resort, the residents of the County of Newell, the residents of Brooks, visitors to Lake Newell Resort, tourists will benefit as well. Now I'll turn it over to Jessica.
So the biggest question you're probably wondering is what we came up with for a proposed route. And this was, as mentioned earlier, one of the biggest hot items that constantly comes up in discussion is where it would go. So we initially, obviously the biggest reason why we're proposing this route is it does stem from the current Kinbrook pathway or Kinbrook connection pathway. And then in consultation with the county, we've come up with some with a proposed route that would actually go along the road right-of-way and utility right-of-way. And then once it reaches the Lake Newell Resort, you can see that we've stretched it across all of the blocks because this way it would connect each of the blocks initially. Well, actually right now we have no sidewalks. So if someone is walking or even just trying to go to a neighbor's house, most people are either walking in the middle of the street or they're, as Julian noted, they're trying to push their bike to the side, and then we've had accidents. So we initially were just going to propose it to the furthest White Pelican Park, but then after consultation with our door-to-door and surveys and such, it is more important to connect the blocks so that we have that safety within the area so that it's easier to get, so the kids can get from house to house, or if you're walking to a neighbor's house, it's more safe. So here are some of the details. Again, the biggest reason why we're trying to push now for this to happen is it would connect to the Kinbrook connection pathway. Overall, it would extend 4.3 kilometers to the resort. And the majority of the pathway, like I said, would be constructed in the road and utility right-of-ways. We have looked at all of the landowners. There is one private landowner, and then the other two would be the EID in the County of Newell. And again, like I mentioned, that road splits off into two separate parks, giving families that access. And we would end up needing to cross the road within Lake Newell Resort, but it would actually be more safe than it is now. Like I said, people are walking within the roadways, so this would at least create that barrier for traffic to be more attentive to the crossings themselves. And then here's the schedule. Again, this is prime opportunity for us to move forward so that we can connect to the Kinbrook pathway. We've been consulting the county for quite some time on the proposed route, and it would align with the current design that's being proposed for the Kinbrook pathway, including the type, the width, all of those offsets. So it's, again, prime opportunity. So as Tom and Julian have mentioned, we have consulted with the Hamlet Advisory Committee. We've done 2 different surveys, have gone door to door, done that open house. We have a current website where any residents or even non-residents can go and see more information about what the project would entail. Our next steps would include, obviously today, moving forward with the county, and then getting that design environmental review and the surveys, and then the land acquisition of however that would look in working with the county. And then we have wanted to start fundraising, and that's a big piece of where we would like to move forward. And then after we can try that fundraising effort and when we can look at all of the total cost and what we have currently and what we would need to spend to have this happen, to get the $1 million that would be required to build it, we would then hopefully go out for tender and construction in partnership with the county. So Tom, I'll let you.
Okay, thank you. So I get the tough part or the easy part, depends on which way you look at it. But I've had a little experience with this. So financing. As Jessica suggested, the proposed financing or the proposed cost of this project is about $1 million right now. We are applying for a 25% recreation grant through the county. There are residents who think we should ask for more. However, we are unanimous in agreeing, both the PATH committee and the community association, that we should respect the policy and apply for the 25%, which means roughly a $250,000 contribution, and the balance to come from the special levy tax. Now this tax would be just using the $1 million, and then again, it's just an estimate. It'd be a one-time tax per lot of $2,900, and if that's amortized, it'd be a $271 for a 15-year payback, or a $228 per lot payback for a 20-year amortization. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for your support. Again, we want to emphasize the fact that Lake Newell Resort is a big contributor to the tax base of the county, as is the recreation grants, the grant money that we have actually contributed, and we haven't taken a whole bunch back out of that. We appreciate the support that as a county has given us in terms of operating our utilities out there, but at the same time, that's about all that we've asked for. So with that, we're looking for your support.
Thank you. Appreciate the presentation. Matt, do you have some context from discussions you've had?
No, all the context I would provide has been provided in the presentation. The numbers quoted for the local improvement tax estimate were prepared by myself, working with the crew at the lake. Those will change depending on where interest rates are at, but yeah, it's been good conversations down there. They've had good support coming back out of their community surveys, and that piece is really critical for getting a new piece of recreation infrastructure to your local area. And I think we can all appreciate the sentiment where community groups would like to see a larger share of funding coming from the county as a whole. But that policy is designed to protect ratepayers in every corner of the county, to make sure that what you want in GEM or down at the lake or in Scandia isn't paid by everybody. So it does hopefully put a little bit of a break on the wish list and help people think, you know, do I value this? And for me, what you're willing to pay for tells me what you value. And so to have a community come and color inside the lines of the policy that says, yeah, we actually value this enough that we're willing to be on the hook for 75% of it. Let's get the project done, I think is encouraging.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate that. And thank you for the presentation. Are there questions from Council Neil, please?
I'd just like to congratulate the whole works. Yeah, like this makes our job a lot easier. That was an excellent presentation. I used to not be a fan support or a pathway supporter, but now I am. So, good work, guys.
Thanks. Lynette, please. Thanks, Neil.
I guess my question would probably be more to Matt, explaining how this would work. When we have agreed to help fund other community endeavors, it would be more of a, once they've forked out money for something, they submit their receipts and we pay our portion. Will this be rolled into the building of the Kinbrook connection pathway? Was that the idea? And then also, who would be maintaining this in the future?
Thanks, Lynette. Good questions. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, so in the application package, it is proposed that the county take on maintenance of the pathway. So that would involve clearing snow if it snows and crack sealing. Those aren't huge expenses, but they are expenses depending on the type of winter you have. So last winter was probably more expensive than any other one we've seen previous, but hopefully we work on a law of averages and that brings it down. So that would be an ongoing operating expense that is proposed for the county to take on. Next steps, if council approves the funding, administration would prepare a local improvement plan required under the MGA. So we would circulate to every landowner who is going to be on the hook for paying the tax what the plan is, what the estimated costs are, what their options are for either paying it out up front and avoiding interest or amortizing it over the 15-20 year period. I think we'd be looking at the 20-year period just to make it affordable, but we'd work with the community association and take their advice on what to put out as an option in that local improvement plan. After we have sent the local improvement plan out to all owners, they have 30 days to say no. So they can organize and petition against the local improvement. And that is what I think is one of the great features about a local improvement plan project is everybody gets a say. Everybody's aware of what's going on. It's not just a few highly motivated individuals from the community putting all their neighbors on the hook for 20 years of taxes. Everybody sees what's coming at them and gets a chance to either say yay or nay. If at the end of the 30 days, no petition is received by myself, we would start working with Mark McElhaney, the engineer on the Kinbrook side, to work on design. The county would manage the project and cash flow the project. In terms of fundraising efforts, we could easily at the front counter do something similar to what we've entertained for Kinbrook Connection and receive charitable donations. So just for council's information, another $3,000 donation came in this morning for Kinbrook Connection. So the fundraising effort is not over. So we could entertain issuing charitable tax receipts at the counter. The community group's motivated to go to the community and see what they can raise there. You'll be on the hook for 25%, approximately $250,000. The community, the other 75%, so whatever the community can raise would reduce their 75% owing and the local improvement tax back to property owners. So hope that answered it.
Thanks, Matt. Kelly, please.
So you've sold our CAO. That's awesome. But to do that, you had to color within the lines. So good for you. I'm really happy for all of you for working together. And I guess the end result will be the 30 days. And with that, I'd like to make a motion as option 1 recommended for this pathway to proceed.
Thanks, Kelly. Any other questions? Amanda, please, and then Greg.
I just have a question about the liability if someone gets injured on the path. Who's responsible for that?
County, our pathway. Yeah, so we will end up signing easement agreements with the EID if they're amenable to the proposed pathway with the private landowner. Maybe there's an opportunity to actually buy the land from the private landowner, becomes the county's, but the county would ultimately be liable.
Thanks, Matt. Greg, please.
Yeah, this has been, being a member of this committee and working with the Hamlet board, this has really been a community strengthening endeavor. And I would encourage other communities within the county of Newell to maybe look at future, not only recreation, but other types of endeavors. And it is very much a community building. I don't know if you guys have noticed it, but you've seen an increase in community involvement. And there's more to come. I think we'll be seeing other great things happening. This is the first step. And the reason why we put this together quickly, and I commend the committee for getting this together so quickly. A lot of hard work has been done by the members, is that we did want to keep the costs as low as possible and get on the bandwagon with the connection pathway. And it was very important that we were able to do this by the end of July, and a lot of hard work went into that. And I really commend everyone. So good work.
Thanks, Greg. Are we ready for the question? All in favor of the motion to approve, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. That's unanimous. I would also like to express my appreciation to the Community Association for the presentation and the effort you've made. And I think as you've seen, the county is also interested in moving things forward as quickly as possible with our commitment to the other part of the pathway. Look forward to how that will serve our communities. I live about as far away from this thing as anybody does in this room, I think, who lives in the county, but I think it's a great idea, and I think it will serve all of our area in an excellent way in the future. So thanks for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. We will not take a break now. I'm going to say we have a public hearing that we're going into. Otherwise, we'd probably take a break, but I think we have an 11:30 appointment for a public hearing. So we will look for a motion to move into a public hearing, right? Ellen, please. All in favor that we move to a public hearing? That's carried. Thank you. Item number 7, we will be considering Bylaw 2059-23 road closure and lease for the portions of Range Road 183 adjacent to east of 28 and east of 33, 2118 west of 4. Maria, please, welcome.
Thank you. This proposed road closure is in Division 6, approximately 4 kilometers northeast of Bizano. It's also located within the Bizano IDP area. The reason the applicant initiated this application was because there has been littering and dumping of different forms of garbage on their private land. When that was brought to me, it's also showing that the landowners irrigating the road allowance. And so we're going to clean that up as well as hopefully stopping some litter if this goes forward. Closing the road allowance would also remove this portion of road from the maintained road list, as it is, a portion of it is a developed road. The most southerly portion of the proposed road is maintained by the county and used for access to the residents in the southwest of 2118. The adjacent landowners have indicated that they are in favor of the proposed road closure. It, however, is still recommended by staff that the most southerly 150 meters of that maintained road remain open for the continued access to the acreage in the future, knowing that ownership can change in the future. The proposed road closure has been circulated to internal departments. There was concerns raised over the closure of the existing built road and how that might look in the future if this road is ever opened again. This can be looked after in the lease agreement with some wording in the lease agreement. It was also circulated to required referral agencies and adjacent landowners. There was no comments from the Bizano IDP committee. No concerns from Alberta Transportation, TELUS, ATCO Gas, Fortis, and no concerns raised from adjacent landowners. Should nothing be heard at the public hearing or no concerns raised, it is recommended by staff that first reading be given to the road closure and lease, and this be sent to Alberta Transportation for approval. Thanks.
Thank you, Maria. Are there any questions? Neil?
I think it sounds good as long as it's a lease back. I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Lynette, please.
Are we setting a precedent because this is a
public?
Because it's a built-up road. Like, is this one of the first times we've ever done this, or do we do this periodically?
This is the first time I have done it, the built road. Never, looking through some historical roads, it has been done in the past. The landowner just needs to be aware that this is no longer a county maintained road, and in this case, they're very happy with that. So,
go ahead.
Have we ever taken them back? Like any of the historic ones, have we ever gone back to using that road again?
Sorry, Lynette, I missed that. Repeat what you...
If we've ever gone back to using the road again, like, and having to put it back to county standards, or if we have, closed a road, it stays that way.
Go ahead, Maria, please.
I am not aware of any times we've ever taken it back. One instance that might happen if that might make this road want to be reopened, I guess, or someone want to reopen it, is if, say, a house is developed or they want to build something on one of those vacant pivot corners. In that case, there would be a development agreement put in place where they were responsible for building the road to the county standard of that time. And then once a year has passed, we would follow the procedure of a development agreement. So once it's built to county standard and some time has passed, then the county may take ownership of that road at that point.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to ask Catherine, are there any public questions or comments, either speaking for or against this, as this is a public hearing that we're going through? Catherine, is there anyone online?
No, there is no questions online right now.
Okay, being none, I'll go ahead, Kelly.
I just wanted to share that the southern 1 mile, so section 29, I believe it is, 28, is the only 1 mile of the road that is actually built. The top section is not built. It is a gopher trail, basically, and has always been fenced off and blocked from public, but not legally. So it's just the southern 1 mile that is really built up at this point. And we are neighbors to this road, and we have no problem with this road closure as per the neighbor's request.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. And seeing that there is no one from the public wishing to speak for or against this, I'm going to suggest that I'd be certainly entertain a motion to move out of public hearing if someone is prepared to make that, Greg.
Yes, I'll make that motion to move out.
Thank you. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. So now we could entertain a motion for first reading for motion for bylaw 2059-23, correct? Neil? So moved. Any further questions? All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Right. Moving back to 11.3, are there functions of council that we need to consider this morning? Lynette, please.
The only thing I wanted to bring up was we had sort of discussed that Ready grand opening. I don't know if anybody was actually wanting to go to it or if we had actually dealt with it or not. There was nothing in the minutes from last time. It was brought up, but then just kind of let go. So I just wanted to bring attention to that.
Which one?
Ready. I don't even know what that organization does exactly. I think Kelly's nodding. She knows.
It's a social service agency who are extending their borders from Medicine Hat into Brooks. And they are putting a sub-office here in Brooks. Ready's been operating in Brooks for 20, 30 years.
Okay. Are you, somebody make a motion that that be a function of council? Is that? Dan?
Would that be attached to any of our subcommittees at all or connected in any kind of way?
It certainly could be. It's a social service agency. I'm wondering, oh, Holly's not here. Amanda? It's Monday the 24th, Lynette said, at 1 o'clock. 10 o'clock. I would make that a motion to have a presence at that grand opening.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor of the motion, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Is there anything else for functions of council? Seeing none, move to committee reports. There's a number of committee reports here. Are there any questions? I'm not going to suggest, or I'm going to suggest that we don't go through them individually, but we certainly could take questions for any of those committee reports. And there are a couple of other ones that we'll have, but go ahead, Dan.
Not a question, just a comment. The committee reports have vastly improved. You guys are doing a great job of the write-ups of the committee reports. Go back to the beginning when we all started here. It was kind of just notes, and now that they're really good reports. So thank you. That's my comment.
Okay. Thanks, Dan. Adina, please.
Well, I had a question for Holly for FCSS, but she's not here. So maybe just for the record, I was just curious. I believe Lynn had her last meeting in June, but I believe she is still technically employed till September, I think. So I just wanted that clarification, that's all.
Okay, thank you. We'll have that for the record. I think that's right. We have a couple of other, Kelly, you had a Communities in Bloom verbal oral report.
Just quickly to let you know that the judges are in town. They arrived yesterday morning. 2 judges, one from Wetaskiwin and one from out of country. I'm sorry, I don't remember where the other lady is from. I did attend the judges banquet last night at the JBS Center, PD's new restaurant upstairs. And we were by candlelight for about half an hour because the power was out, but the power came back on and dinner was lovely. And so if you see them around, they'll be in Brooks all day today because it is market day. And just say hello and welcome them. But it was a nice affair last night.
Great, thanks, Kelly. Thanks for attending on our behalf. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move to Greg. You've got a 55 plus summer games update or oral report. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do. We met the other night. We are meeting every 2 weeks now. Just plus there are meetings going on as far as the individual sports coordinators and of each individual sport that's happening, just to make sure that everything is flowing correctly, and we're gonna be putting on a real good event for the 55 plus games. Just a couple highlights from the meeting. There will be camping done, has been approved at the CRA on the gravel portion to the south, so people can actually access the facilities at the CRA for showering or whatever. And so there will be some campers there. If you do drive by, that'll be part of it, because a lot of our campgrounds are full nowadays. So that's an important thing. One of the big contributions will be the busing, and the busing is going to be undertaken by Grasslands, a school division. That's at no cost. So they're providing drivers and buses, and they do all have all the liability coverage and all the ins and outs of that type of service. So a definite kudos to them for doing that for the event. Another thing is volunteers are still needed, but especially volunteers for the medical, anybody that has their first aid. We need roughly, I think it is 40 people that have first aid certification. We have about 7. So if anyone that is first aid certified and is wanting to help out, even for one event or for a day or whatever, let's get a volunteer form filled out and participate for sure. So other than that, that's the report.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate that. Any questions? Adina, please.
Well, just that I read something about there's going to be a dance one night, and they were, what was the end result of the bring your own alcohol to the dance?
So yeah, it's BYOB on Main, I think it's first, between City Hall and 2nd Street. I think they're closing down that street right next to Veterans Park. So yeah, it's BYOB. It's going to be an old-fashioned small town party, sanctioned by the city of Brooks, and which is great. It should be a fairly good time, and it's going to be a dance. It should be done by 10, so it's not like it's going to be too rowdy. But I mean, we are 55 plus people, so it is what it is. But yeah, it's going to be a neat event. So there'll be some food trucks there, and it's from 6 to 10 is when and there'll be all local bands. So it'll be pretty cool.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Any other questions or anything about any of the other committee reports? Just to note, I suggested a number of letters of appreciation. Those will be sent out. They'll be on county letterhead in due time. So any other questions or comments? Seeing none, let's move on to, we're at close to the end of our agenda. There being no post-agenda items, the information items are there for information. Any questions about that? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to move in camera. Do we have a reason? Yeah, we should move in camera. Oh.
I'll make the motion to move into camera if we need to.
Thank you.